You seem hungry. Good thing your table is ready with Saturday Omaha.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.
Hey, this is Dave with Saturday Omaha, and we are sitting in studio with another wonderful guest. And we're kind of breaking new Saturday ground, if you will, because we actually have an author of a cookbook on our show today. And not only that, but a local to the Omaha area cookbook author, Filipi, is in the studio. How's it going, Aaron?
It's going very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for driving down here and coming in studio, really reaching out and connecting with me and saying, hey, by the way, do you talk to cookbook authors? You bet. In and around the restaurant industry, 100%. You kindly dropped off a copy of the book for me to read, which I did. There's a lot more in here than food. Tell me about the book, which is One Cook, Many Mouths, an amateur cookbook for single parents who hate cookbooks, in parentheses at the bottom.
I like how you went down there.
Well,
who hate cookbooks.
Who hate cookbooks. So, but I have a feeling that single parents will love this cookbook. But tell me a little bit about your story. How did this come to be?
Right. So it was during COVID, really. And so we were all packed into one place. I was going through a divorce and then obviously required to cook for these humans.
All right, got to keep them alive.
More. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They wanted dinner
right
on a daily basis. So I had cooked before a little bit. I'm definitely an amateur. But once it became my responsibility when I had the kids, I was and I'm blessed enough to have a very amicable relationship with my ex-spouse. But I have the kids certain days of the week.
Yeah.
And on those days, I have to come up with, good dinners. And they're not picky. So I have wonderful kids.
That's helpful.
Yeah, super helpful.
But there's four of them.
So there are four
right?
of them, but two are out of the house now.
Okay,
but at the time, I was really cooking for three.
That's
so four total. But then the other one would come over too. So at times I was cooking for five.
Yeah.
So that's why in this cookbook, it's roughly 2 to 5.
2 to 5.
Yeah, basically for most of these meals. So it started then, but I wasn't doing a lot of creative work at work.
Sure.
I was in marketing and communications, but I wasn't doing a lot of creative stuff. So, but I was cooking. So TikTok had growing popularity. And so I thought, why don't I just start making TikTok videos of me cooking?
Nice.
And just playing around with that medium.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And in the process of doing that, joy started to come into that routine. And I started to find I find it very enjoyable to create something new on those nights. And so it was the TikTok videos, but it was the cooking. And I found great joy in just creating even something super simple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's how it started.
And so I'm going to actually flip to the table of contents because I really enjoy the way the book is organized. And you're very clear in this book that this is not for the ninth degree black belt level chef, right? This is for somebody that has some kids that need some food, and you may be completely lost as to how to do anything in your kitchen, right? And you make it very safe to do something simple, right? We're not doing Chateaubriand for 2 around here.
What is that?
Yeah, exactly, right? So in this case, we have, it's really 4 sections. We have no cooking, barely cooking, crocking, and the ultimate, which as you progress through the book, you do up the, I'm going to say difficulty level, but I think by the time you get to the end of the book, you might feel empowered to just give it a try. Because I think your approach there too, throughout the book is, with that safety element is just do something, just try something. It's okay, So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just to, give yourself some grace. And there are going to be days, and that's the reason I tried to make it as simple as possible, but there are some variations. So some cooking is obviously a little bit of cooking, but no cooking is on some days, especially if you have kids and you're coming home from work or whatever. I mean, chips and guac or something simple like that, or just veggies and dip and whatnot. If that's all the energy you have, then sometimes that's dinner. Yeah, at least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
And it's something. And then oftentimes if they're unhappy with that, they'll find something else.
Yeah. But at least you put forth an effort
Right.
to put something on the table. There's a lot of really good quotes within this book because you kind of punctuate between the chapters and pages with some of your personal view on things, on parsing and handling some of the more difficult situations, but putting forth that effort of putting that food on the table is important. And you mentioned in the book that effort equals love. The kids and whomever that you're putting that food for the table on definitely appreciates when somebody makes a meal for them. you
Right.
know?
Well, yeah. And my experience is that kids appreciate any food.
Sure.
I mean, usually, they love to eat. Sometimes there's some complaining a little bit. Or
Sure.
it's not perfect. But,
Yeah.
but typically, if we can get to the dinner table or whatever that is, maybe sometimes it's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But we're eating together. Things come out. I mean, all kinds of life experiences and really valuable exchanges happen when you're eating.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
absolutely.
have to be fancy. And again, that's all based on my experience. I just don't have the skills and experience to put something fancy on the table.
I'm glad you said that. So when you decided to put this together, newly divorced dad, you've got kids to take care of. I believe you have worked in the restaurant industry, but you don't have a background as, a chef or really a home cook too much, right, at that point. So where did you start? Like, where did you begin?
Well, I mean, it was when I was married, my ex-wife was very good about, she's not going to do it all. There are going to be times when the kids or I have to pitch in and help. And so part of the credit really goes to her to just say, we all need to participate in this exercise. I would grill at times, but Dave, I'm not a griller. I'm not one of those, experts.
You don't have your designated like beer koozie and 3-foot spatula, and you're just not
right. I do have a long I can spell grill, but that's about it. I can put things on the grill, but I'm not that great. So that's really how it started when I was married, and then obviously then divorced. I think part of that too is the kids recognizing that we're all going through something, and there was probably a lot of forgiveness or grace there too.
Yeah.
So it was, they're not going to bust me on stuff.
Right.
So just that frequency, I think, every week was really good. One thing that really helped was on Sundays, I started just making a meal plan. Planning ahead for the week, especially those days when the kids are in my house. And so that just getting in that routine on Sundays helped me, have the necessary ingredients and all the groceries and everything because I'd prepare in advance. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I have baked potatoes because I went and got them. So
right. Yeah. Well, and to give folks an example of like starting in the earlier chapters of the no cooking, the granola PB&J. So I like this. You actually mentioned in here that when you were growing up, the sandwiches weren't exactly a PB&J. They had another ingredient on there.
Yeah, I don't know why my mom put butter on it, but she put butter on it, and I mean butter goes. I mean, why not?
Maybe that's the French version because there's butter and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's awesome about this is, first of all, everybody loves a PB&J. Yeah. Rumor has it that Barrett's barleycorn actually has quite a good grilled PB&J, which I have not had, but I hear it's quite phenomenal. But you kind of up the game a little bit because you say, hey, let's make that PB&J, but let's add some granola to it. So tell me about the granola PB&J.
I don't know. The thing is I also have, and it's not in this cookbook, but like bowl full of food. Have you ever done that?
No,
when
sounds good.
When you don't, especially if you're cooking for yourself or, people are doing different things or whatnot, and you just have a bowl and you put, ham and cheese and an egg and maybe some sauce or something. Sometimes I don't know. That's kind of how I roll. Sometimes you're really hungry and you're right. Peanut butter and jelly. How can you go wrong?
Right. I
kind of like granola. Why not throw that in there? I don't know.
Yeah, well, and you're adding a nice textural element too, because you've got salty sweet, and then you're adding in this kind of crunchy element to go with probably soft bread soft jelly and soft peanut butter, depending on if you have crunchy or smooth peanut butter.
Yeah.
But you could make your smooth peanut butter crunchy in an emergency with granola. I mean,
You're making it sound very exotic. I like where you're going with this.
It's got an artisan handcrafted granola PB&J by Aaron Filipi.
Right.
From the new cookbook, One Cook, Many Mouths.
Man, this is awesome. It really is those 3 ingredients, though, folks.
That's
It's
it.
that simple, yeah.
And that's what I love is folks going into this cookbook. It's not a tome of Julia Child's best or Eric Ripert's whatever. It's like, hey, you need to make some food. Just make some food. And here's some things. I think the other thing that's neat is the recipes are simple enough that it takes a little bit of the consternation of trying to think about what to do. It's like you can think of things that you have on hand or can grab at the grocery store quickly and make a meal, because especially if you're having a hard day, maybe if you just flip through the book real quick, it's like, oh, hey, it's okay for me to do some PB&J with some granola. Like that's a thing. So,
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think every kitchen probably has one or more cookbooks maybe in the room, but this is like the easy button.
Yeah.
So, and plus we all have access now to, or at least a lot of us have access to all the resources online. So you can go to Pinterest or Instagram or all these places and find dinner ideas.
Yeah.
This is just another resource, and it's like the easiest ideas possible.
And there's a small advantage too, because you don't get 17 paragraphs of information before you get to the recipe in the book.
Right.
So you can just get right to the recipe.
Yeah. Well, and I don't cook in measurements. So that's another thing. I mean, at certain personality types I know like to measure everything out, and I totally appreciate that. I literally just kind of, some of this, some of that, a little bit of that. That's, those are the instructions.
Coming from an aspect of working on a lot of pizza dough lately, measurement's very important for me. So I'm reading it and I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, if I'm going to make these sloppy joes here, how much ketchup and mustard should I put in here? But I read it, and when you read through the whole book, I just think the answer is whatever you think you should put in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just taste,
Yeah.
Taste it out. I mean, you're right. When you're baking, whether it be pizzas or anything else,
Yeah.
you got
little
to
more
measure
science there.
Yeah, you got to measure that stuff out. And I learned that the hard way by making bread, just kind of dipping my toe into that world. And I thought, you really can't guesstimate on that.
That's a little tougher.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So everything in here is definitely a little more workable. Yeah. And you do have a nice list of, at the front, like a 9x13 pan. That's kind of like the basic things that you probably have in your house. I don't think there's anything on there that's like, really exotic. Like, you're not going to have to go shopping to go start to cook any of these recipes, right? So,
no, if you have a knife and you have a cutting board, 9x13, I mean, it's the basics.
Yeah.
I can't use exotic things. I can't use fancy equipment. So
a lot of times simple is best, and, got to have a knife to make big things into small things and trim them up. But yeah, other than that, I think you're pretty well good to go. Yeah. So the recipes are focused on feeding the kids, feeding the family. What are some of those things that you ate growing up that that you really like, or, maybe what are some of those things that come to mind, or you feed the kids? Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in the 70s, 80s. So I had a lot of casseroles.
Nice.
I don't know if that was that a thing in the 70s and 80s? I'm not sure, but it was in my house.
In the Midwest, I think casseroles or I think up north they call it a hot dish. I think it's a necessary. Yeah.
Well, my mom made a lot of those. She cooked every day, and she is an excellent cook. So I mean, I learned. So I guess going back to your question about how this all got started, I mean, I became familiar and comfortable in the kitchen.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
When I was growing up, probably. I mean, it was, my mom is actually a really, really good cook.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's probably where I started.
Yeah.
First becoming familiar with the, and watching someone cook.
Yeah.
And watching someone put dinners together.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say I grew up on casseroles. And maybe we had a leftover night. I'm not sure. That's a standard in my house.
Sure.
Gotta
use the leftovers.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, just lots of those. I mean, we didn't grill. We didn't do like a Mexican night or anything like that. I mean, it was It was like 9 by 13s, maybe every night.
Maybe every night. How many family members did you have in your household growing up there?
So it was 5. So my father, my mom, and my dad, and then 2 other siblings. So we're in a younger one.
Casserole is a good way to kind of stretch your food out a little bit too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
And who doesn't like tater tots or delicious potatoes with stuff? I mean, that just works very well.
Is that so? You grew up in the Midwest?
Yeah, I grew up in Omaha, so born and raised here. And so, I've had a few casseroles in my day too. But thankfully, my mom was also a very, very good cook. But she cooked just about anything. I mean, from crepes for friends that would spend the night. She'd do crepes in the morning instead of pancakes. And she was the best. You have a note in the book that the cook eats last. And you want to make sure that, the kids always have food on the table. Yeah. Well, my mom would stand there and make crepes until my friends and I just tapped out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just, and so she was definitely always about the humble servant as far as that. And really enjoyed trying new things. Quite a cookbook library.
Yeah, sounds like it.
My grandmother, on my dad's side, she was definitely the savory cook of the grandmothers, pot roast, lasagna, that type of thing. Where my grandmother on my mom's side did not like savory food. She loved sugar and baked goods. And she, if she was going to cook a roast or turkey, everybody was kind of like, oh no, because it was going to come out dry because she didn't enjoy it. And it's interesting how that love translates to the food.
Totally.
However, amazing baker. Her cinnamon rolls to die for.
Right.
So when I would go visit her, either she'd always have cinnamon rolls ready to go. I've told the story kind of in short form on the show several times, but her cinnamon rolls and playing dominoes with my grandfather that's a very key memory.
Oh, really?
And then she would also make Bierocks, German Runza sandwiches, and so that was kind of her deal. I was very, very food fortunate.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of different dishes have crossed my plate, although I would say that I don't think I was a picky eater, but definitely the palate has grown the more I encounter, which is been really nice. Just experiencing all sorts of new flavors.
Yeah, exactly. And did you have any dietary restrictions? That can definitely be a challenge, obviously.
Certainly. No, the only thing is I was never a big fan of cooked fish. That was probably one of the few things that I wasn't a fan of, which is interesting. So when I was very, very little, probably 2 years old, before I was 3, my mom used to take me to a local grocery store, and they had a cafe, and we used to share fish sticks.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to like them then. And I don't know what happened, but after that, which is interesting because to this day, if someone were to cook me fish, I will eat it, I will enjoy it. But I typically would not order it for myself. However, I'll eat sushi all day. So I don't even know what that means. But that's just
like
the
the California roll, maybe. I don't know.
Sashimi, any
really?
straight raw fish, absolutely, no problem. So I don't know. Maybe I just haven't found my perfect fish yet. So
we all have nuanced eating preferences, and some people obviously are restricted by what they can eat. That's something I also want to point out, I guess, in reference to this cookbook is many people do have dietary restrictions.
Sure.
It doesn't take any of that into account.
Sure. This is just from your point of view and the recipes that you write.
I mean, but I feel like a person could, if they're mindful of the fact that they need to make it gluten-free or something, that I'm sure that
certainly
a person could figure that out.
Oh yeah, swap that bread out, or maybe if you have a nut allergy, there's a different kind of butter that you might use, or maybe you just do like you did when you're growing up and just use butter and jelly.
There you go.
And
there
some
you
granola.
go.
And, so
actually, originally when I again, it was a night and I just needed something simple, and I put together the peanut butter and jelly and the granola. Yeah. It was in a bowl. It did not have any bread with it. And then I
just go for so the granola was the bread.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you got your grains there. And again, this is how simple my brain works. I don't know much about food. I just know I love to eat it. So I just kind of combine these things. But that's how it started. And then because I have a picture of it, I took pictures of a lot of these meals when I started this project. But then in working with a very talented graphic designer here in town, Christopher Halpcat, he made it clear, like, probably best if we don't include I'm not a photographer.
Yeah.
So They weren't that great.
So maybe the
They were at best left out.
so maybe the second edition of the cookbook.
Maybe. I am using some of the photographs in some of the social media posts and stuff like that, just to showcase some of these meals. But
what? So how long has the book been officially available now? Give or take a little bit.
Yeah. So I think mid-March officially is when it went out. Yeah, I published it on a platform called Mixum, and then uploaded it to Amazon. It took a little bit of, I had to kind of rebuild the book a little bit to get it on Amazon and meet all the requirements and all that kind of stuff. So that took a little longer. But yeah, so it's only a couple months now.
How long did it take you to put things together?
Well, that's just it. I mean, job, kids, everything. I mean, Dave, 3 years. I mean, it took me a long time, and this is not a long book.
Sure. Yeah, because you said that when you're like, hey, Dave, I'll drop you off a copy of this thing, and you'll read it in 30 minutes because it's roughly
like it really took you. How long did it take you?
You're probably about right. It was probably more than a fun fact about me is I read at the pace that I talk. So my wonderful wife is a very avid reader and is probably 2 or 3 times speed. This is me reading right now as I am talking to you. So it probably took me longer than
35.
Yeah, 35 and a half.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but
and
divided up well.
And I'm not. I mean, I understand people don't read cookbooks. I mean, some cookbooks,
sure.
Molly Meisenberg, I think, or something like that. Or, I can't recall her name right now, but she writes terrific cookbooks.
Yeah,
and no pictures, well, not all of them, but normally, why would you read a cookbook? You just go there as a resource. But my hope was, again, to make it a little bit more than a cookbook.
It is, and it is 100% readable. And because you punctuate the recipes, well, first of all, the recipes have a nice little lead in to give you some context. And between there are, some anecdotes and notes from your journey being a single parent. And I think that's what's interesting is it keeps you interested to flip to that next page and see what's going on. So yeah, it may be a quicker read, but I'll tell you, there's a couple of times when I just stopped. Like something you said in there just maybe go, whoa. Like quite often I'll read in the living room in the late evening or whatever. And so I'm sure my wife heard me a couple of times just sitting there reading, just say something like, whoa, or oh my goodness, or, so there's more to this than just those items of food.
Yeah. I wanted to be more vulnerable for sure.
Yeah.
And because it is more than just cooking.
Yeah.
But I also think it's part of what really drove me to get it done, despite the fact that it was taking so long. And there were, all kinds of life challenges that happened in the meantime. I felt like these other parts of life just had to be included. I mean, that's what comes out at the dinner table and when we're together, right?
Absolutely. So roughly page 37 here, but mentioning being vulnerable, I'm going to read a passage here just so people can get kind of an idea of those things. It says, the kids might be sad. Whether you have 1 kid or 10, living with one parent might sting, maybe for a while. At some point, it needs to be shared. So eat. If the kids are old enough to have phones, make a rule to set all devices aside at the dinner table, turn off the television, let conversation happen, and maybe even ask questions. If it's natural, don't force it. Humans share more when they're breaking bread. I don't know why it happens, but it does. Let them be sad, especially at the table. And that's kind of a powerful statement. It's okay to be sad once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're going through transitions like that. I mean, with any family who's going through transition, but it's true for any family.
Yeah.
I mean, or any couple. I think even if you're alone, I think, you
bet.
Give yourself some time to process the day or everything that's happening. But definitely when there are kids involved, offer those periods of silence if that's necessary. Sometimes, and you can pick up on the dynamics, when someone's upset, especially as a parent, when someone's off a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, it needs to be natural. That's the way it should be. But everyone has a different comfort level with that. But at least in my house, if we got to do it right here, let's do it right here. If there's pain, let's talk about it
Well,
if they're comfortable.
And getting that out in the open sooner than later helps probably get over it a little sooner, or at least people get on the same page. There's a phrase I really like. I think it's a Danny Meyer phrase from Setting the Table, which is a really good book. It's assume positive intent. If somebody's having a bad day or whatever, or is angry, don't yell at them because they're angry. First, figure out what's going on. And I think you bring up a good point there with the kids. It's like, let's talk about it. What's going on? Or maybe, as you say, maybe they don't want to, but maybe you're just present together, and maybe you hand them a PB&J with granola or whatever silently, and they enjoy it, and just they're thankful for that as well.
I don't know about your experience, but as a parent, sometimes it's hard to engage with kids, especially if they're going through, well, they're always going through things, but if it's something especially challenging.
Yeah.
But food presents an opportunity because they're probably going to eat.
Yeah.
And if they don't take it to their rooms, hopefully there's some kind of community gathering, even if it's just brief,
Sure.
But because it's there, then you're together.
Right.
And then when you're together, that's when you can start to kind of pick up. At least that's been my experiences. Oh, okay. So I wasn't getting anything after school.
Yeah.
But then now I'm picking up on something.
Yeah.
And then,
sure.
and then eating, if you're not just, shoveling it, which can happen some days.
Sure.
Creates pauses.
Mm-hmm.
It just naturally does. And so it provides the opportunity to listen a little more.
I love that. And you also provide some kind of notes in there, actually on that same page, about some ideas in this case. Visit your local bookstore, Amazon or wherever, for books on helping children cope. And so it sounds like maybe you were able to find some resources during your journey here that maybe helped you move things along a little bit.
For sure. Definitely at the public library. But then I also felt it needed some kind of footnote because I'm by no means an expert.
Sure.
I was actually a little uncomfortable including that page.
Oh,
I mean, I wrote it several times. I had a reader group of a number of people.
Yeah.
And, bounced it off them and all these kind of more personal insights.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to get the thumbs up or thumbs down from all of them.
Sure.
And that one got the thumbs up, but I just felt like I'm not an expert on this. This is just my experience.
Yeah.
To invite conversation, but only if it's natural. And boy, go to the public library, or obviously if you're working with a therapist or a true professional,
sure,
then they'll have all the resources.
There isn't anything in here that says, Aaron Filipi is an expert. This is almost if you had a friend sitting down with you and they're like, Aaron, I'm having a hard time, like going through some stuff. What kind of helped you out?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yes, I put it in these pages, right? It's that type of approach.
Yeah, I'd say what's in your fridge, what's in your pantry, or even your freezer.
Sure.
And then just bust that out. And if you got a little wine, then bust that out too.
I mean, what's the Julia Child saying? I cook with wine, and sometimes some of it makes it in the food or something along those lines.
I will say though, I mean, in all honesty, I tell you, even on the hardest days, as I worked on this for 3 years or whatever it was, there were days definitely where I think everyone experiences this, where if you're coming home from work or whatever it is, and you're just not in a good place to be with other humans. And you give yourself a little time out or whatever, pouring a small glass of wine for me is a way to just kind of like take it down a notch.
Well, so kind of going back to family, as far as you growing up, what's a Safeway meal?
Oh, yeah. So this goes to the ultimate. I mean, this is my father's style of cooking. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up in Walla Walla, Washington. Safeway was very common there.
Yeah.
There were no Hy-Vees, or I think it was Safeway and Albertsons at the time. But yeah, if my mom was out of town for whatever reason, and that didn't happen very often, but if she was, then that was the meal. He would just take us to Safeway and let us go for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And then we'd come back. We'd have a meeting spot probably by the registers, and we'd check out and go home and eat. And there were no rules about what you could get. I mean, you couldn't buy 50 of something.
Sure.
But, what do you want for dinner? Go get it. It could be at the time. I mean, I think TV dinners were a thing.
Yeah.
I loved, getting TV dinners. But if you wanted to order, you wanted to eat a big bag of Cheetos, then that was fine. Totally fair game. Twinkies. I mean, the best.
That's awesome.
I mean, is that not the best?
That is wonderful. My daughter and I have a little bit of a tradition. Once a year, it's ice cream for dinner.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
so I actually think we first did that during 2020 because there was I think Ted and Wally's was doing Pints to Go. I think that's where this started. But anyway, it was just like, if we're doing ice cream for dinner.
I would bet most families, parents have that. It's for me, I called it the ultimate, dinner or Safeway dinner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's maybe it's ice cream for dinner. There's got to be a go-to. Where there's no work whatsoever.
Right. And it's just pure fun, and it's okay if if you want to eat cotton candy and chips. It's okay to do one. It's a sometimes thing. It's not
right.
Not every night.
Maybe not a staple.
No, not a staple. Yes. Otherwise, we're going to be making visits to the doctor. But once in a while, that's okay. So from those the ultimate from those Safeway meals, and you mentioned Twinkie or chips. Do you recall anything either that was really significant there, or maybe part B? Did you and your siblings ever collaborate on anything and just grab a bunch of stuff that you recall?
That's a great question. I mean, of the three of us, we definitely went in three different ways.
Oh, interesting.
I mean,
okay.
it was like, I feel like I need to confess something here.
Because right here on this show right now?
Right here. Because when you're given an endless number of options, it can be completely overwhelming.
You're right.
And so I remember feeling a sense of freedom, excitement, and anxiety all at the same time, because you go down this freezer aisle and it's just
cooler after cooler.
Nuggets and it's just endless.
Yeah.
So we would I do recall if I wasn't running, I was walking briskly for sure because I wanted to cover as much ground as possible. I don't think I ever touched the produce department.
I
never went there. Never went to bakery. At the time, they didn't really have a deli section or anything like that. So it was just all dry goods or maybe freezer meals and whatnot. But I mean, I think I bring up the TV dinners because I think I probably usually ended up with those.
Yeah.
Because it was all kind of packaged in one thing, and
you could see what it looks like on the box.
Yeah.
So and that's a good point. As a kid, it may be more challenging to look at individual ingredients and determine what that will become versus there's a picture of this on the box and it's got a little piece of Salisbury steak here and some corn, and that turns into a brownie.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
That's a grown-up meal.
Yeah.
I'll cook that.
Yeah, it looks official.
Tonight.
Yeah. And good marketing on the box. Attracting attention.
I don't know that, with regret, I feel like I never walked out with a big bag of Cheetos or a big bag. I know. I'm almost positive though I did not Twinkies, but probably Hostess cupcakes.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure I walked out with a box of those.
Okay. So Hostess cupcakes. All right. Let's get into some deep culinary conversation. Here we go. When you eat a Hostess cupcake, do you just straight on eat it? Or are you one of those folks that maybe, yes, you know exactly where I was going. Do you take the frosting off of your Hostess cupcake before you eat it?
Okay. So I like to have, a diverse amount of experiences.
Yes.
So if you have a box,
right,
then go for it. You can do 3 and 3, take some off. I don't know. I mean, I think typically I would just, eat it whole and not take the top off.
Gotcha.
But I know I've taken the top off before.
Gotcha.
I know that.
All right. So we're learning about each other a lot here.
Yeah.
And
these are important things.
They really are.
Yeah.
And full disclosure on a Hostess cupcake, I am not a fan of the cream filling.
Oh, you're not?
I like the cake and I like the frosting, but I
that's
could do
where our
without
friendship
this.
goes south. Sorry.
This
was really working.
And Aaron, we'll see you later. This mutual agreement of cupcakes and different.
So then, if you don't like the
I'll eat it.
What about an Oreo?
Oh, Oreo all day.
Okay,
all day.
You're not.
Oh, no.
You're okay with the filling? And,
100%.
Okay,
I'm also a bit of an OG Oreo purist. There's a billion types of Oreos out there, and I don't care if they're Dunkin' sticks or whatever quadruple stuffed. I just like the original Oreo. It's the perfect iteration of Oreo.
I agree. The thinner ones. How do you feel about those?
Nope, because
Just
they're
the originals.
To me,
Yeah.
they're a textural difference. The cookie part of the cookie doesn't taste the same as the regular size Oreo.
Yeah. Okay, and you've had all variations of it too, right? I mean, like I just recently, a week ago, it was like a peanut butter graham.
Oh, that sounds good.
It was
good.
Yeah.
I
mean, it was like I don't think I should go there. 'Cause I'm gonna eat like the whole sleeve.
Well, that's one serving, right? Is a sleeve. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I was mentioning the other day that Pepperidge Farm, when you eat the little goldfishes, there's like 44 of them in a serving. I was like, Oreo needs to get on that page.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will say, an exception to that rule is the mini Oreo, the little tiny ones.
Oh yeah.
If you ever want don't do this out there because your doctor is going to call you if you do this. Yeah. But if you take a bag of those mini Oreos and you happen to have some milk in the house and you put a little bit on there and you eat them like cereal, I'm just saying that might be okay.
I know. It is cereal. It really is.
It really is.
It becomes and you put it on ice cream, right?
Oh,
you put the
Oreos,
the little minis.
Oreos in ice cream, blended up
for sure.
In fact, Dairy Chef here in town does. They have their version of the DQ treat, but theirs is known as the Storm. Wow, they pack a whole lot of Oreos in there. That's pretty good. If you need an ice cream blended thinger, they will help you out.
And see, there's a lot of protein there. I feel like there are some dietary benefits to that.
Well, and I think Oreos are vegan. Also, yeah. Now, don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. But I think that might be the case. So, just saying, there's options.
I feel like we need a couple of medical disclaimers or something.
Yeah. None of these snacks have been approved by any health organization anywhere. In fact, they may be detrimental to your diet. See your professionals. Right. Aaron and I are not endorsing or committing to the health benefits of anything. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so you should check out those Oreos, the graham peanut butter ones.
Okay.
Something like that.
I did see a bag of churro Oreos that really tempted me because cinnamon and sugar is a delicious thing. Maybe going back to those cinnamon rolls again. But well, so are we going to Safeway after this? Is that what's happening?
Exactly. So if you don't take anything away from this conversation or this cookbook, just go to the grocery store.
Just go to the grocery store,
or let your kids, roam.
And that's part of the cookbook is find something and cook it. Really. But so moving through after the cookbook or in the process of the cookbook, do you feel that your personal cooking, Aaron's cooking, has advanced, or have you been taking on things beyond what is located in this book?
That's a great question, and so yes. I definitely feel way more comfortable in the kitchen to the point where I may not need to refer to a cookbook or something on Pinterest or whatever, and literally just look through what I have and then put something together. I mean, and again, if you have rice or you have potatoes, mashed potatoes or minute rice or something like that, and some chicken, pre-cooked chicken, I almost always have pre-cooked chicken, and I don't get a big skillet and put some pre-cooked chicken in there and some veggies that I cut up, even if they're bell peppers or mushrooms or whatever, and voila, that's dinner. So it has gotten easier. And again, I'm not coming up with anything that's super insightful, and that is just get into a routine. Yeah. Even if it's super simple. Yeah. But then you become more comfortable and it's just more satisfying.
Now, speaking of satisfying and a big flavor punch, there's one in here that I really, really want to do. And that is your family's variation on the French dip sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Which I believe you have a different name for, which is?
Yeah, the Old Man Sammy's.
The Old Man Sammy's. So that's what they were called growing up. That was the dish. But what I love about this thing is you have ingredients here are rump roast. And by the way, this is in the more advanced chapter.
Very advanced.
Yes, super advanced. The crock pot is your friend in the advanced, in the crockery chapter as well. But this has French onion soup, beef broth, a chunk of butter, and a bottle of beer to go with this rump roast. And this sounds amazing. And it's like an umami, like savory flavor bomb.
Yeah, it is. And I was afraid that you were going to ask me about the beer.
Oh.
But
Aaron, what type of beer do you like to put in there?
I'm serving that up. I mean, the one in your fridge.
Sure.
I don't. I'm sure that I'm sure people have preferences,
I am not a chef. Let's let that be known. I'm an amateur home cook who just loves to eat and loves food and loves to meet people through food. However, there is a recipe from America's Test Kitchen that I love. It's a beef carbonade, and they do recommend a dark beer,
like a porter.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Porter or a stout. I think I will go with the philosophy of make sure you like drinking whatever it is. And I will give you my grocery store hack for such a thing.
Please.
Because I don't go through a lot of beer in the house. And if it's going to be a weeknight or something and I need to cook something, I don't know that I want to buy a 6-pack necessarily.
Right.
However, a lot of times they have taller single cans like a Guinness, or I think I'm going to say it wrong. It's a Polish beer. I think it's Zwijk, Zywec. Could be spelling it wrong, but they make a dark porter in a large bottle, which gives you enough for the roast and a little bit for yourself.
Yeah, I got
and you don't have to house the whole 6-pack.
See, there you go. Buy a 40.
Yeah,
and then just a little bit of this.
Yeah.
Pour just a little bit in.
A little bit.
And then you got to get rid of the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you're not trying to soak this. But between the French onion and the butter and the beer and the beef, just sounds absolutely amazing. And
it's good. It's super simple. I mean, again, awesome. And I'm sure there are about 1,000 variations on that. But
sure,
the beer, the truth is, so that's the other fun part, of course, is you could make it with one beer and then make it, another time with another beer. That's a good idea. I don't know how the light beers would be.
Yeah, I think I'd go dark if I had to pick. I think the light would be all right, but I think the dark would be the way to go. But hey, email me saturdayomaha@gmail.com or message me if you're out there and you're like, no, Dave, use this. But in my experience, a dark beer would probably be
I'd
the
love
way
to
I
know
would
what
go.
other people think too, because beer is a whole science. Itself. And I'm sure that there are certain types of beers that would react better with the meat for sure.
Yeah. Indeed. That's awesome. So that just sounded fantastic to me, and I would eat that right now.
Yeah.
So.
And that's in the crocking section, I believe. And so those are just, are you a crock potter?
I typically, if I'm going to do something, I fade towards the Instant Pot, which, it's essentially the same idea anyway, depending on what setting you put it on. So, yes. But I do like to use, I have a very heavy porcelain cast iron Dutch oven.
Oh, yeah.
So, crock just in the oven versus the plug-in. But, man, the crock pot meal's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have a lot of time. Just chuck it in there in the morning and go.
And using the cast iron one.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
You put it in as long? I mean, you can put it in for 4 hours, 8 hours?
I've done that beef carbonade like 12.
Okay.
You just let it sit there and just, make sure you got a good amount of liquid.
Yeah.
But if you, brown it a little bit, put that lid on nice and tight and let it braise for hours and hours and hours. And it just keeps getting better and better and better. So,
and your house just...
Oh, smells amazing. When you come up to the back door coming home, and you just get that waft, or right when you open the door and you get that waft. I've got an old house, so it wafts outside of the door too. It's awesome. And you're like, oh.
And so aren't you kind of the hero?
Oh, I mean, definitely to my tummy.
Well,
but the family definitely loves it for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the whole house smells good.
And then you make it in the morning, or do you make it the night before, or how do you, because I mean, that's what I love about crockpot, however you do it.
Absolutely. This one I would probably typically do in the morning, and just let it roll through the day, and usually be dinner. And then I like to do I love mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Butter is awesome, but kind of a fun twist is instead of butter, if you use red potatoes because they cream very easily. You can smush them real easy. Drain off your water, and instead of butter, use goat cheese.
Oh.
And it's
nice,
awesome because it's kind of tangy and super cheesy. The only thing is though, is you got to eat them because that cheese will seize up.
Oh yeah,
but if you keep them hot, man, they're super good. They're super good.
Now you don't have a YouTube version of this podcast, but
only in audio form.
I know, which is too bad because it would be great. It would be great to capture your face when you said, awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, it's
sold
pretty
it.
good.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah, if you'd like to be the hero,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Well, and if you want to kind of level up your mashed potatoes a little bit,
Yeah.
and a little salt, a little goat cheese, and if you need to add some milk, go ahead. Make sure they're as creamy as you want them to be. I usually mash them by hand, and that's actually a good instant pot move for me. Is I'll quarter the potatoes, throw them in the instant pot, cover them with water, do them that way.
Nice.
So
I am trying to up my game on mashed potatoes because you would think that it's super simple, right?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you can just get like instant mashed potatoes or whatnot, but I was responsible last Thanksgiving for providing mashed potatoes.
that's a big responsibility.
It is.
It's a key item on the plate.
Key.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, I was feeling very pressured here to make this right. So, of course, I overthought it, really dorked out on it, came up with all different kinds of variations and whatnot.
Yes.
They ended up being great. And for the life of me, I can't tell you all that I put into it. I know I took notes, but yeah, I could probably even do it better. And that sounds fantastic.
That's awesome.
But I know I used, I don't know, it was Parmesan. I don't know. Yeah, but I definitely used some cheese in there for sure.
Give it a little zip, little interest there.
Yeah.
So 100%.
Yeah.
Well, and it's nice being, we mentioned Thanksgiving and, being together with family. And, we had kind of talked throughout about how when you come to the table, you're together. There's opportunities for conversation. There's opportunities maybe to talk about some tough topics or fun topics. Hopefully there's also moments of levity and goodness here as well. But the nice part is that togetherness. And so speaking of that, I told you before the show that I would really like you to read a quote here from the book. So if you would be so kind, if you turn to page 59 of One Cook, Many Mouths, an Amateur Cookbook for Single Parents Who Hate Cookbooks. If you would, Aaron Filipi, would you please read page 59? Because I think this is one of those pages that maybe stopped me in my book tracks a little bit.
Okay. All right. This one's called You Aren't Alone. Being a single parent can be a lonely life. So many evenings, especially when I first became a single parent, I felt sad or angry entering the kitchen around dinner time. I was so unqualified, but I had no choice. The kids and I had to eat. One day led to the next, and the obligation to eat was relentless. Eventually, I became more comfortable in the kitchen, and my emotions subsided. I stopped listening to sad, slow music while I was cooking, and I started listening to funk and jazz. I started having fun. And then I realized I wasn't alone. Now, when I'm in the kitchen, I'm with Mom, who can make up meals on the spot that taste amazing, or my grandma Filipi, whose signature dish was fried chicken, and so many others. Now I go to the kitchen to be with the people who got me to parenthood in the first place. They're all there somehow, especially the ones I miss the most. I encourage you to do the same. Enter the kitchen and put the love from loved ones into your meals, now for the people who may one day feel alone themselves.
That is just very meaningful to me, and food is one of those connection points to people past and present.
Yeah.
And we were talking about meals from our childhood and those things, and I just think that's a beautiful page, very much so. And I appreciate you reading that.
Yeah,
here,
thanks for asking me to read it. It's interesting. I haven't read it in a while. But it's absolutely true. And you were even talking earlier about, your mom and your grandma and everything. So I don't know. I think it's important to keep that in mind.
I think something to parents out there and grandmothers and dads on the grill and dads baking a souffle, whatever you want to do out there. Your kids, maybe they don't say so as kids, as an adult, they're going to remember all of those meals and it's going to mean a lot. And a lot of the celebratory events that we have, both good and bad, are around food. Food is that connection point, that touchstone. Everybody eats.
Totally. If we're lucky enough, right?
Oh yeah, no kidding, right? And especially when it's over good food and fun food. And as we said earlier in the show, you have a quote in there that effort equals love, and people understand that and feel that through a meal. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
I agree. I cannot agree more. And I don't know that I don't know that it requires much effort. I mean, the ultimate was inspired by my father, who did all of drive us to the grocery store and let us roam free and everything. And yet we loved that. Of course, it was fun.
Yeah.
That was a unique memory that we had with my dad.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that it takes a lot. But
Right.
then again, something I love to do with the kids is make pancakes on Saturday mornings.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Saturday mornings is pancake time, at
Absolutely.
least in my house. So,
Absolutely.
like coming up with those routines
Yeah.
and those staples.
Traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I know they last.
Aaron Filipi, thank you so much for coming down here, for writing this book, providing your insight and your culinary expertise, which you would probably be very quick to say, I don't have any, just read the book.
Expertise.
How do people find you? How do people find the book?
The book is locally. Certainly want to encourage people to go out locally. It's at a gift store, RSVP in Rockbrook Village, also
yeah.
at the Bookworm, and then Dundee Book Co.
Perfect.
in Dundee. And then online, it's on Amazon, of course. And then you can also go to aaronphilippi.com. And I have basically all those links to all those places on my homepage, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's how to get them. And then, I mean, again, I started creating these little TikTok videos. So I'm Aaron Philippi on TikTok. Who knows what's going to happen with
Who
TikTok.
knows?
So I started posting things to Instagram too. So I think I'm Aaron Philippi on Instagram, and I post things to Facebook too.
Perfect.
Just try to have fun. I don't, you won't find quantities.
Uh-huh.
You won't find instructions, but I've had a lot of people say that they just enjoy watching it happen.
It was so good to get to know you and get to know you through the book.
Yeah, it's great to get to know you. Thank you for having me on. It's a great show. I always enjoy it. I mean, you're right. We can't stop talking about food. So
There you
I love
go.
it.
We'll just keep eating out there, and we'll sign it off on the show. And this is Dave with Saturday Omaha sitting in studio. And as we say, until we eat again, stay hungry. Bye.
Our show is recorded and produced by Saturday Omaha. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as email SaturdayOmaha@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay hungry.
Saturday Omaha.
Eat this.